All right, it's 4 o'clock by my clock, so I'll go ahead and get us started. Welcome everybody. My name is Candace. I'm here serving as your Zoom host. You are at the Rose Quarter Meet the Proposers event. I'm going to start by giving some quick overview of some Zoom controls and some Zoom overview for those of you who may be less familiar. So for our attendees, welcome. We're happy you're here. You are coming in on listen only mode, which means that you won't be able to unmute yourself or share your video, but you should be able to see the screen here and hear us. You probably also see the little video icons for the staff who have their videos on. I'll just note that if you kind of hover over that top bar of where you're seeing those videos, you can minimize the videos, you can move them around so they appear in the right spot on your computer screen. The main Zoom function that you'll need to know about for our event today is the Q&A icon that's shown there at the bottom of your Zoom screen. This will be how you'll submit a question to the proposers when we get to that point of our agenda. So you'll click on that Q&A icon, and then this little box here will pop up on your screen, and that's where you can type in questions to our proposers. If you lose connection at any point throughout the webinar today, you can rejoin using the exact same link that you used to enter the first time. I'll also note that this webinar is being recorded so that we will share it on the Rose Quarter website in the future. And I'll note again that we have our technical assistants, Susan Heyman, available to support you. Shall you need it at any point today? Her number for those who are on the phone is 208-869-2120. So our agenda for today, I will move next here shortly to some introductions and opening remarks from our staff. Then we will move into the proposer presentations. They'll each have a 15-minute presentation. And once that's done, then we'll move into 2 moderated question and answer sessions that we'll talk more about how those will work here shortly. And then we will wrap it up with some closing remarks. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Brendan Finn, if he's on the line.
I'm here.
Welcome.
Great. Thank you, Candace. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Brendan Finn. I'm the director of the Urban Mobility Office here at the Oregon Department of Transportation. Greetings from Region 1. The Urban Mobility Office was recently created at the beginning of this year by the Oregon Transportation Commission to pay special focus on our largest projects in the Portland metro region, with an emphasis on how we show up with our values as they relate to environmental justice, social justice, equity, and climate. We're very excited about how what's going to be happening here this evening. Want to give a special thanks to the proposers and being here tonight. This is a great event. We're glad you're here. I want to give a shout out to Andre Ball, John L. Bell, and Amber Orizis, who's here and who've been working on leading up our COEC process and our DB process. They're doing a fabulous job. Really appreciate all the efforts that they've done. Before I turn it over to April to talk a little bit about the project, I guess I want to just say how important we feel bringing this partner is on board at this very time. The I-5 Rose Quarter project right now is at about 15% design. That means there's about 85% of the design left. The CMGC process is going to lend itself for us to show up and really lead in the values and outcomes that we've created through our executive steering committee process. Those values and outcomes will show themselves, and now that we will have this new partner that we will have on board shortly, we'll be able to take the next step to meet those and prove to the community and prove to our regional partners that we are ready to show up with actions, not words. And that's definitely related to some of the DB portions of this project. That's why it's important that we move forward. And that's why I'm honored to have you folks here tonight, and just want to express my appreciation on behalf of the Oregon Transportation Commission and on behalf of the agency. And again, I want to thank all of you that are here tonight and those of you involved. With that, I'd like to turn it over to April to talk a little bit about the project right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Hi, I'm April DeLeon Galloway. I'm the Public Involvement and Communications Lead for the project at ODOT. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for being here. So to open the session, I wanted to kind of focus a little bit on what Brendan was saying about values. We are here today because our project's stated values really do center on elevating the voices of the community, and also on a community-informed and involved decision-making process, and a transparent and inclusive process. So the event today is meant to be one way that we're aligning with those values. So the project has to be informed by the community, and it has to reflect the shared power of the community and local, regional, and state governments to influence project decisions and outcomes. So just a few notes on how the event will go today. We are going to hear first from the proposers who responded to ODOT's request for proposals for the construction manager general contractor for the project, and who are in the competitive scoring range. Each proposer will present for 15 minutes, followed by public comments, including questions provided by our Community Oversight Advisory Committee. Those members are in the audience today. Just a little bit of a side note on the COAC. So you're aware that COAC members have contributed and informed this procurement process through involvement in regular committee meetings with ODOT for over a year and a half. So I'm happy to welcome them here today to continue to engage in this discussion with us and with the larger community. The proposers' answers will address how they intend to meet the expectations by ODOT and the COAC and the community, that there will be extensive disadvantaged business enterprise and diverse workforce participation on this project. And we're also here today to hear from you, the public. Based on your questions, comments, and themes, we will include a question covering that theme in formal interviews of the proposers that are occurring tomorrow. So the work we do today is an integral part of the selection process for the CMGC. So on behalf of ODOT, I want to thank the COAC for your past and continued service on the committee, and thanks again to everyone for being a part of this event. I'm going to turn it over now to Jody.
Hi, thanks, April. Appreciate that. And I don't have much to add about the project. You guys have the Urban Mobility Office pretty much hit everything on that. Just as an overview, the CMGC, which is to acquire the services of the construction manager and general contract, will be initially for that pre-construction phase services. And then we have provisions in the contract to later add the construction phase. So through early work amendments and that GMP amendment. So I don't have much to add right now, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to be involved in this process. Thank you.
Thanks. Jody, did you want to say anything about the themes that we asked the presenters to present on today?
Yes, I'm sorry. I forgot I had the next slide. So sorry. So, did we miss one slide, Candace? Okay. There you go. So I think we already mentioned that this event is an opportunity for the proposers in the competitive range to provide the public with a 15-minute informational briefing on key themes. And I'll go over those key themes in just a moment. The public is welcome, again, to submit questions about the presentations, and the proposers will provide a 2-minute response. And again, as April indicated, the community questions and feedback will inform the creation of at least one interview question. the proposers' response at this event are not scored, and the proposers aren't required to release any proprietary information from their proposals at this point in the process. Thank you. So the themes. So we had 4 themes there that we provided to the contractors. They're up there on the screen. The first one, how does your firm anticipate expanding efforts to optimize local DBE contracting and workforce development for the project? To the extent possible, we asked them to be specific on how their firm anticipates pursuing qualified DBE firms in each group as identified in Part 49 Code of Federal Regulations 26.5. The second theme was, how will your firm optimize the use of many CMGC opportunities? Our third theme was how your firm will optimize the use of COVID certified DBEs, increasing apprenticeship opportunities, and ensure the utilization of a diverse workforce during construction. Our last theme, theme 4, was what is your proposed CMGC's diversity coordinator's anticipated approach to managing diversity outreach, support, and technical assistance of DBE contractors and workforce training during construction?
Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, thank you.
With that, I think we'll hand the mic over to Andre, who will talk more about the process for asking questions.
Thank you. I will be your moderator tonight, and welcome public. The public is welcome to submit questions related to the proposers' presentations during the meeting. The public may submit questions during the proposer's presentation and up to 5 minutes after the close of the last presentation through the following options. Please look to your left on the screen. Submit questions during the meeting by joining the meeting via Zoom and using the Q&A feature. Email questions during the meeting to info@i5rosequarter.org with Meet the Proposers question in the subject line. Questions will be asked by me, the moderator, to the proposers, and the proposers will have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question asked. The community questions and feedback provided at the event will inform, as Jody said earlier, ODOT's creation of at least 1 interview question for the proposers to answer at a separate mandatory interview. The proposers' information and responses at the event, however, will not be scored and is not included in the evaluation process. Proposers, again, are not required to release proprietary information or provide a response to a question that will or could compromise the competitiveness of their firm or proposal. Information provided and responded to during the event will not change the score of the proposer's written proposal. Asking a question. Here's the ground rules. Questions must relate to the content shared in the proposer's presentations. You may submit questions during the presentation and again up to 5 minutes after the close, and I will bring that up at the end of their close to notify you as public you have 5 minutes more. Questions will be asked by me, and the proposers again will have 2 minutes to respond. The questions that you ask, some of the questions may not be verbatim, and similar questions may be combined, and questions not related to the presentations will not be asked. Again, the preferred method is click on the Q&A button in the Zoom and submit your questions in the box that appears. And if you can't, you can send it to info@i5rosequarter.org, and please put proposers meeting in the subject line. Next. The proposers' presentations are 15 minutes apiece, and presenter one, you have 15 minutes. If we can get the presentation up, you have 15 minutes starting now.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Williams of Hamilton Construction and project principal for our team. I am here to introduce the Hamilton Sunt team along with our exclusive subcontractor partner, Raymore Construction. Next slide, please. To us, this is much more than a construction project. This is about helping build a better community, a stronger community, a reunited community. We understand Portland. We've built here for the last 50 years, and many of us were born and raised here. We are committed to listening and to engage with you and making sure you have a voice in this process. Personally, I have a family connection to this area. My son and his family live 2 blocks off at MLK. My granddaughters will be attending Harriet Tubman Middle School during the construction of the project. Next slide, please. So why was the Hamilton Sunt Raymore team formed? Our core values align on issues such as safety, both for the public and our workers, strong commitment to our subs and their success, keeping traffic impacts to a minimum for the community, and building a relationship in the community as we construct our projects. As far as the firms, Hamilton has spent over 50 years working in Portland. In the last 5 years alone, we have worked on most of the bridges crossing the Willamette in downtown Portland. We have an office on Water Street under I-5. Later this year, we will be rehabbing the I-5 bridge going into Vancouver. We know Portland. Sunt recently completed the Selwood Bridge construction project, the largest single bridge project built in Portland. Sunt has been in business since 1890 and is employee owned. Today, 60% of the shareholders are minority and women. In a few minutes, we will hear from Sunt's Matt O'Connell, who will be the project manager on this job. Next slide, please. Finally, Raymore has been in business for over 20 years, building many projects in and around our city. To further talk about Raymore and why they chose to team with us, I will turn it over to Jeff Moreland, President of Raymore.
Thank you, Scott. The I-5 project is about community. It's about keeping the community moving and connected. If our team is selected, this project will be about economic empowerment for small businesses and job creation for disenfranchised and marginalized communities. The team that will be the symbol for this project shares deep-rooted value for the community with a proven track record of not only representing, but including the community in all of our projects over the last 2 years. Raymore met and interviewed with all the contracting teams who were pursuing this project and chose to partner with Hamilton Sunt for 2 main reasons. First, we felt both Scott Williams and Jeff Williamson, the Sunt Transportation Group President, values aligned with ours. Second, we felt the minority voice would be heard and valued, and we would have the ability to truly influence the outcomes of the project. From the beginning, the Hamilton Sunt team asked me how we wanted to be involved and at what level. We settled on Raymore being a dedicated sub in a mini prime capacity, controlling all the streetscape work, and that I would be on the executive team to ensure that the minority voice would be heard and that we would lead the diversity and workforce inclusion efforts for our entire team. Our team is committed to partnering and building capacity in the minority community. Sunt recently partnered with Raymore, allowing us to be the lead contractor, which shows their commitment to empowering minority firms. I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who will be the senior project manager, and he'll talk more about maximizing and expanding opportunities for minority firms.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to cover theme 1 here. So our team's committed to working with everyone from the community who has been historically disadvantaged. Next slide, please. Our team has a strong track record for achieving high levels of DBE participation well in excess of contractual goals. At the Selwood Bridge, we employed 75 separate DBE firms for $45 million in value and exceeded our contractual goal by 16%. At Raymore's Deferred Shelter Program, they achieved 84% overall DBE participation. And at Hamilton's Willamette River Bridge, they exceeded their goal by 11.5%. Next slide, please. And this is our company culture that's driving these high levels, not compliance audits or threats of fines. Some of the strategies that we'll employ include a strong outreach plan, as our team has relationships and ties to the local community, creating more participation. We're going to seek out small minority companies new to public works and assist them so that they may participate in this project. We've also begun to form a contracting plan, which is going to be our roadmap in matching DBEs with scopes, as well as identification of capacity building opportunities. Lastly, we'll use a best value award process where diversity is a criteria, which will ensure the best, most suited firm is selected for each scope. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to introduce Bill Bruce, our diversity coordinator.
Thank you, Matt. Theme 2. Many prime opportunities with local DBEs provide the most meaningful return to the community. Successful DBEs are a means to providing a much broader impact on diversity in the construction industry. I developed the mini prime concept on the downtown bus mall project in 2005. Since then, I have incorporated mini primes on almost every large project here in Portland. Sun also incorporated the same concept on the Selwood Bridge project, as have many other primes since. Next slide. Currently, on the Division Transit project, we have 2 mini prime scopes valued at over $12 million. Both of these current scopes of work involve training these primes to compete through an RFP as well as complete pre-construction services. Both mini primes have multiple second-tier subs, so they are fostering their own DBE contracting practices as well. Next slide. For Rose Quarter, our current thinking is that there are a number of DBEs that are ready for mini prime roles. The scopes of work that match up well for these opportunities are primarily the surface street work, including light rail, streetcar, and as a challenge, some of the structure work, including walls, the I-5 widening over Holiday, and possibly the pedestrian overcrossing. Keep in mind that the distinguishing elements of mini prime is the inclusion of multiple second-tier subs, overall schedule management, quality control, and engineering. These are the elements that eventually graduate DBEs. Successful DBEs are our best means to diversify the workforce. Next slide, please. Jeff, Moreland, and Raymore are living proof. Jeff, please share your experience.
Thanks, Bill. As you said, Raymore is living proof of the benefits of sustained work and many prime opportunities on large infrastructure projects. Raymore started with a dream and one dump truck, and over the last 20 years has grown to be able to win major contracts, including TriMet's $60 million Division Transit project. Raymore employs over 100 people, 70% of which are women and people of color. The I-5 Rose Quarter project will provide many living wage jobs that economically empowers families and economically empowers communities. I'm going to now turn it over to Jennifer, who will talk more about workforce diversity and outreach inclusion.
Thank you, Jeff. Next slide. I am covering theme 3. Workforce and apprenticeship is the foundation of this project. Training apprentices and hiring diverse workers is how we day-to-day operate our business. This is what we already do. Here are some best practices that we have been doing on all projects that achieve unprecedented results. Goals will be reached by planning it into the work from the beginning of the project. As you can see from this slide, we will continue to support pre-apprenticeship groups like OTI, POIC, Constructing Hope, and Portland Youth Builders in the surrounding community. Next slide. We will stay involved with apprenticeship programs and hire apprentices. There are opportunities on this project for both union and open shop firms, and we listed off a couple trades that will be on the project, and there will be great opportunities. Next slide. Our best practices will be used that are already working in hiring diverse workers. There will be a lot of opportunity on this project, and we want to get you involved. Our goal isn't to just place a person on a construction project and give them a job for a year or two. Our goal is to create a career in construction and show them a path to advance. There is a huge opportunity here in being a long, multi-year project for many apprentices to become journey workers and have a meaningful career in the trades. So as you can see from the slide here, this is the workforce progression. You start as a pre-apprentice, you get into the trades, you get into an apprenticeship program, you graduate, and then from there you become a journey worker, and then really the sky's the limit. You could run a crew, run a company, own a company. There's a lot of opportunity. We also work closely with Taro to make opportunities available to tribal members. As an example of Sun's experience, they placed 542 Native American workers on one project. I also want to tell you about a great program our team is working on with PCC. It is a middle management education curriculum and internship program for young people of color in middle management. We believe this will help to increase diversity in frontline management, which will aid in diversity across the construction industry. Next slide. Bill, can you tell us about the Division project?
Sure, Jennifer. If you want to see diversity in construction, you really need to drive the Division Transit project. You'll see more than 50% people of color on Division, including project management. It has been 20 years in the making to see diversity like this in construction in Portland. On the Interstate Max project, the litmus test for diversity was that if Abel Gordley drove the job and didn't see brown and black construction workers, I would get a phone call. I haven't had that call in a long time. Today we get a different kind of phone call. We get calls from owners and major contractors who want to excel in diversity, asking us how we have been able to do it. I'm so proud to be seen as a leader and expert in developing DV contracting. We've set the bar that others aspire to reach. Next slide, please. Theme 4. Because of my role as a project manager on large projects here in Portland, I have a unique perspective on the role of diversity and outreach. I've seen the Northeast minority community benefit from construction over the last 20 years. Based on my experience, the best methods include the following 3 items. First, intentional contracting practices such as having diversity as a selection criteria. Second, bring workforce development along with the subcontracting. We have the relationships in place with the pre-apprenticeship organizations and the unions and non-union apprenticeship organizations. We actually know people of color, and we know how to make our projects representative of the communities that they take place in. Third, we have a well-established process of connecting DBEs with the right scopes of work in a fair manner aimed at maximizing growth and success. This only works if you have intimate knowledge of the work and the DVE contractors here in Portland. We will also make sure to be sensitive to spreading the work evenly between advocacy groups like PBDG, NAMAC, Latino Build, and Awami to assure harmony between different groups. Next slide, please. To give context to the Rose Quarter, the last time that Portland DBs participated on this scale of infrastructure work was
1 minute.
2011 and 2016, at which time both PMLR, Portland Milwaukee Light Rail, and Selwood Bridge were occurring concurrently. Both projects were valued at a combined $700 million, and both projects combined achieved in excess of $150 million in DB contracting, and DBs grew and improved across the board. We have assembled many of the same people as our strategy to be successful on Rose Quarter. This is our approach, and this is how we get the maximum community participation. Next slide. Jeff Moreland has our closing statements.
To close this out, a picture's worth 1,000 words. This project is huge for our community. There is currently an outcry in our country like we have not seen since the 60s for justice, inclusion, and equity.
You have
We
10
have an
seconds.
opportunity to right some historical wrongs and to ensure that our businesses and our people get major economic benefit from a $600 million infrastructure project that will be built in the heart of the Albina community. This is the right project at the right time, and we are the right team to
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. We'll be switching proposers now to presenter two, I'm sorry, presenter two.
All right, well, thank you, Andre, and thank you to the community members and especially the Community Opportunity Advisory Committee for joining this afternoon. At the COAC meeting a few weeks back, Pastor Hennessy said something that really resonated with our team. He said, we're in this together, and that it will take work and willingness on all our parts to help build trust. Our Kiewit team also believes we're all in this together. It'll take work and willingness on all of our parts to build trust. We too want to see the project succeed, and we look forward to working with you, the community stakeholders, and in partnership with the rest of the project team to find solutions to the real challenges ahead. Many of you know me. My name is Kent Bowden. I grew up in Oregon, and I'm a local Kiewit Vice President. Together with the Kiewit team, we've been listening and learning these past 2 years to understand the Rose Quarter community and the vision for this project. To the COAC, we heard you when you talked about creating meaningful opportunity, building skills, growing capacity, and working with the various local agencies to achieve project goals. We heard you when you talked about focused opportunity, outreach to historically impacted communities, namely the African Americans and the Native Americans. We heard you when you said you're concerned about accountability and transparency in meeting goals, and we will deliver this. And we heard Mr. James Posey when he said disaggregated workforce reporting data is really important. Our team will provide that to you. The Rose Quarter will provide in the range of $130 million in DBE subcontracting opportunities. This is more than any other ODOT or other public agency single project ever done in the state. And this project can be a game changer for the local minority community. Good jobs, good contracting opportunities, those are the things that provide local minority businesses and families the opportunity to thrive. We hope to be part of ODOT's project team, and I hope my words communicate to you, the community, and the COAC, Kiewit team's enthusiasm and commitment to this project. I myself bring 33 years of highway building and estimating experience to the project team, and I will be assigned full-time to the Rose Quarter as the lead estimator and then the deputy project manager.
Hello, my name is Ralph Salami and I am our project manager, and I live here in the Portland area. By my count, I've driven through the project corridor 5,000 times, and I can tell you, I look forward to helping fix this bottleneck. At over $600 million in construction value, magnitudes larger than any highway job in Oregon's history, both ODOT and the community need to trust that their contractor will deliver. Our Kiewit management team, seen here on the screen, has been involved to manage more than 10 similar projects across the country, each with a value exceeding $600 million. We've brought prosperity to communities in Seattle, in Denver, Salt Lake City, LA, and the list goes on. What's more, my team has all worked together before, which is such an advantage. These relationships enable us to work more cohesively together to accomplish goals benefiting the communities we serve. What to know about me? I'm practical, I'm approachable. I've been building highways and bridges for 40 years, including right here in Portland, where I manage the Telecom Crossing project for Kiewit, and work with many of the local minority subcontractors in this community. Telecom was one of many successes on TriMet's Orange Line program, and I'm really proud to have been part of TriMet's success of realizing community visions. Kiewit also built the Big Pipe project for the city a few years back, and we built the aerial tram to OHSU. Thank you. Through our work, we have delivered more than $90 million in DBE subcontracts to this community. We know this community pretty well and hope you ask around about us. Ask the city, ask TriMet. Kiewit delivers on promises to the DBE community. Next slide. ODOT has mandated they're going to do business differently. A big part of different is a focus on creating wealth and economic benefits for people of color in the local community. To lead this charge, Gina Woolley has joined our core management team as wealth creation manager with sole focus on the local minority community. Gina has a proven track record delivering economic opportunity to the local Northeast minority community. Gina?
Thank you, Ralph, for that introduction. A little background on me. I've lived in Northeast Portland since 1970. So I've personally seen and experienced the racial and social injustices inflicted on the African-American community over the last 5 decades, starting with the wholesale removal of Black homes and businesses for the Emmanuel Hospital campus expansion in the 1970s, to the gentrification and displacement of 65% of our population from the neighborhood by the 2000s. In fact, I would be one of the displaced if I hadn't owned my home. So I know how critical it is for us as minority individuals to own our homes and our businesses in order to grow generational wealth and to control our destiny. My role on the I-5 Rose Quarter project will be to bring my 45 years of professional and community development experience to bear, so our team, working with ODOT, can think outside the box to truly build greater capacity and wealth for minority businesses, organizations, and families. I'll be leveraging project activities to create a broad range of outreach and participation opportunities, and I'll be assisting Dennis All, our diversity coordinator, in implementing and managing the project's DBE contracting and workforce programs. I know many of you, and I look forward to having the opportunity to work with all of you to develop a model project that shows how large public investments can be leveraged to accomplish critical community development goals. Thank you.
My name is Dennis All, and I'm the Kiewit team's diversity coordinator. I'm a 45-year construction veteran with extensive experience in accounting and construction business management that I'll utilize to help our DBEs. I'm a veteran of large projects like Rose Quarter, and I have experience with single project SDBE goals up to $179 million. And I look forward to utilizing my experience to help your local DBE community. And here are my promises to you. I will focus on local contractors of color and continue to work with the local advocacy groups, PBDG, NAMAC, Latino Build, Awami, and the Oregon Native American, Asian Pacific, and Hispanic chambers to provide opportunities for all qualified DBEs. I'll communicate with you regularly and notify you in advance of upcoming bidding packages so you can prepare and plan your bids. The project team and I will assist you pre-bid with scoping, estimating, and bidding the packages. I will break up the construction work into manageable packages that best suit this DBE community. And I'll be working with each of you to figure out how you want to grow your business and identify new scopes of construction work on how to grow your own capacity. I will use my 45 years of experience to help you with insurance, bonding, equipment requirements, and contracting complexity. DBE subcontractors will all have an assigned engineer monitor once they get on the job site who will coordinate, schedule, and assist you with your work. And I'll make sure you're paid promptly. But best of all, my partner Gina will help me focus the overall DBE program to build economic benefits for the local communities of color. And finally, we'll develop a community benefits labor agreement, or a CBA, with our union partners that will be DBE and minority friendly. In fact, the city of Portland, Kiewit, and our union partners have just created the most progressive CBA yet for the Columbia Boulevard wastewater plant. For Rose Quarter, we think this will be an excellent place to start.
I agree, Dennis, and I'd like to talk about one element from the Columbia project that is working really well called the mini CMGC, and ODOT has adopted a similar program for the Rose Quarter and has allowed up to 9 MCMGC small and DBE subcontractors. This program is going to be administered on the Rose Quarter to develop capacity for future projects and economic prosperity for the Northeast Portland community. The selections are going to be based on local DBEs of color ready to grow or move on to the next and new types of work. Kiewit looks forward to mentoring these DBEs into their next expansion of business. We will also pay DBEs for their efforts reviewing drawings and providing constructability reviews during pre-construction. We want to engage our MCMGC DBEs as true partners, and we want to develop lasting relationships that survive well after the Rose Quarter.
So I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about how we intend to create jobs on this project, good paying craft jobs and professional and management internships. Starting in the pre-construction phase, we will be proactively working with our local workforce development partners such as Constructing Hope, POIC, Oregon Tradeswomen, Work Systems Inc., and others to expand the pipeline of diverse craft workers, targeting local workers who want a chance to work on this project. Next, our team will leverage Kiewit's strong union relationship to deliver on our diverse workforce goals. These relationships can't be built for a single project. They have to be developed over many years of shared commitment and partnership, putting people to work on jobs. We've been talking with the unions for over a year about what's going to be required on this job. We'll also use our strong relationships to help our non-union DBEs and subcontractors negotiate individual job agreements if needed, as we've done in Seattle and many other places. And we'll require all subcontractors with contracts over $100,000 to meet the same participation goals as Kiewit. Kiewit is a registered training agent for several trades, including the laborers, the carpenters, and the operating engineers. Our team has deep experience training and developing diverse workforce and success exceeding its workforce goals. We will provide mentor buddies for each apprentice and insist upon a culture of inclusion and support on the job. And we will develop a process to monitor our progress and identify and remove any barriers that would impede the success and retention of our minority and female workers. Our focus will be to build long-term economic ladders and ramps for both people and DBEs through the project's work. We will not consider ourselves successful unless we are able to do far more than just meet the number goals.
So we only are allowed 15 minutes, so I'll introduce our other key staff by having them wave to you on the screen. So thanks to Zoom, you can also see their project role next to their names. Now let's talk about two other Kiewit team members familiar to this community, Akana and Stacy Whitbeck. This project is within the historic boundary and agreements with the local Native American tribes. Kiewit's team will be responsible
You have 2 minutes.
for the workforce agreement ODOT has with two local tribes, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Run and Warm Springs. I had the pleasure of working with a Native American contractor, Akana, on the Tillicum Bridge, and look forward to working with them again on this Rose Quarter. We have included Kiewit's longtime partner, Stacy Whitbeck, to offer their Portland and local transit expertise, providing the best technical solutions for both the Portland streetcar detours and construction at the Rose Quarter Light Rail Station. Stacy is also well respected for both their workforce diversity and DBE mentoring. Kiewit's partnership with Stacy in Portland goes back to both TriMet's Orange Line and Portland Mall projects. In closing, Pastor Hennessy used the word "we" 9 times in his COAC meeting remarks. Our team's approach, working with ODOT and COAC, will be to bring together the community to succeed in exceeding the DBE, subcontracting, and workforce diversity goals. Our commitment is that the DBE contracting community, the minority construction workforce, and the pre-apprenticeship programs are all better and more prosperous as a result of this project, and that those benefits carry on long after this project is complete. Thank you. So we're ready to move on to questions and answers.
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to hand it back over to Andre to begin the moderated Q&A and offer a 5-minute warning.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I want to go through the 5-minute warning from a project standpoint and make sure that the public is welcome to continue to submit questions for the next 5 minutes. The preferred method, again, is click on the Q&A button in the Zoom and submit your question in the box that appears. The secondary method, again, is email questions to info@i5rosequarter.org with meet the proposer's question in the subject line. Again, I just want to be clear about what the instructions are here for as we get ready to get started here. I will be asking questions of the presenters, and each presenter will need to respond to that single question. Each presenter will have 2 minutes to respond to each question asked. And so we'll get started with the questions.
Yes, thank you, Andre. And as we get started, I will pull up our on-screen timer. Give me 1 second here. Okay.
Okay, presenter 1, how will the proposer ensure that the project meets the COAC goal of economic development beyond the project? Presenter 1, your time has started.
Okay, sorry, Andre, we weren't sure if we were going first. Okay, so can you repeat the question again, please?
How will the proposer ensure that the project meets the COAC goal of economic development beyond the project?
Beyond the project. Okay, anytime that we're pursuing and doing work in a community, we reach out to all the businesses in the community, not just the contracting community. We use the catering in the community. We buy our materials from the local hardware stores. We engage in the businesses where they have event spaces. We use the event spaces, and we have them cater a lot of our different activities. So we're in tune with not just the contracting community. We want to empower all communities in which we work. We're currently doing that along the Division Transit Corridor as well. So Raymore has a history, Hamilton has a history, our team has a history of doing this in every community in which we work in. Bill, you have any comments you want to add?
Sure, Jeff. I think the question was more focused on businesses, but I also want to shine the light on contractors as being businesses. And again, in the last 20 years, using interstate as kind of the genesis of the launching pad for DV contracting here in Portland, we've seen that economic growth continue the last 20 years. I've named a few of the contractors earlier that I've seen grow from you know, $500,000 a year company that's now doing $10 to 15 million a year in receipts, and I think that's the example, is that we've been growing, and you're only going to see continued growth if you continue to build on the last project, and that's really where I think the value gets returned to the community.
Are you complete?
We are.
Okay. Presenter 2, the same question. How will the proposer ensure the project meets the COAC goal of economic development beyond the project? Your time starts.
Thank you. So, Gina, can you please start by addressing how we will grow capacity? And then Dennis, I'd like you to weigh in after.
Well, I totally concur with our other proposer that that the economic benefits need to flow down to the community, and there needs to be utilization of the other community businesses as part of the project activities and principles and how the project functions within the community. But beyond that, I think that our goal will be to work with DBEs to expand them from where they are. So that is another way that you're creating economic development. And we will also have flow downs in the contracts. All of our tier 1 DBEs that we work with, we'll expect them to be mentoring and hiring additional DBEs underneath them to mentor as well.
Dennis?
Yeah, thanks, Gina. So another aspect of economic development, to me, it's also the workforce. We're going to go out to this local community, meet minority workers, get them in pre-apprenticeship programs and dispatch to this project through the heavy highway construction trade unions. And we're going to give them training. It's going to be working wage jobs. They're going to have a career at the end of this. In 4 years, they might journey out from beginning apprentice, first term apprentices, all the way to journey person. And we'll have, it's creating a family wealth and a future wealth with a base for a career going forward. And it's beyond this project is how I took that, where this ODOT project, the next ODOT project, and better for themselves in a career base where they can really advance the career and help their family and the community.
Thank you. We'll start the next question, question 2 with presenter 2. What is the proposer's past experience? Yes, let me start. What is the proposer's past experience with DBE and workforce programs in historically underutilized populations? Presenter 2, your time starts.
All right, Gina, would you want to start that?
Well, I think that we've been working with both the workforce community, the workforce developers. We've been having conversations for months now, and with the unions and with DBE contractors. We've probably met with 25% of the minority DBEs that on a one-on-one basis over the last 14 months that are capable of doing highway and transportation work. So we do have those connections.
Let's let Dennis weigh in here on what we've done on some past projects.
Immediately came to mind, Ralph, was the one you were in charge of, that Tillicum Crossing when we were working for TriMet. We exceeded those DBE goals. You know, it was a 14% goal. We came in at 17%. The design side, we went from 17% to 20%. So we're exceeding client goals. And we did that recently in Seattle. 3 other urban projects, 520 Bridge, Sound Transit projects, where we had a workforce goal achievement on all 3 of those Seattle urban jobs at 23.5% for 520, 24% on E360 East Link project, and almost 24.5% minority workforce goal achievement on the E130 project. I'm very proud of the workforce goals, and we're making transportation projects in the Pacific Northwest where we've exceeded DBE goals on every single one of those projects, bringing in $200 million of DBE participation over the last few years.
Thank you. Presenter 1, what is the proposer's past experience with DBE and workforce programs in historically underutilized populations? Your time starts.
Thank you. First and foremost, we are that. We are a DBE company, Raymore, and we have been in the historically underutilized market for a long time. So a function of how we've done that is by reaching out to the community which we're a part of, that we're completely tied to, finding people of color. We just put several pictures up of who we are. We're partnering with Hamilton, who has been in this market for a long time and highly respected for their inclusionary efforts. And Sun, as an overall company, is owned by 60% women and people of color. It's an employee-owned company, and 60% of their ownership is women and people of color, which is why Raymore decided to partner with this group. Bill?
I was the project manager on the Interstate Max project in 1999 that ran right through this same corridor. That project really changed Portland, and I think it definitely changed me. Since that time, somewhat unknowingly, I've dedicated my career basically to diversifying the workforce here in Portland and promoting DBEs and diversity in contracting. So much so that 3 years ago, when Jeff Moreland called me and said he wanted to grow his company to graduate out of the DBE program, I signed on because I thought that was the logical next step. I hadn't seen a DBE contractor graduate in Portland in my 20 years of experience on projects. So I have a lot of experience with it. Again, I consider each project a building block from the last project. If we don't one up the last project, then we're not doing our job. And I think that's what we can do on this project.
Oh, Andre, it looks like you might be on mute.
Question 3 for presenter 1.
I'm sorry, Andre, really quick, not to hate to interrupt, but have we hit the 5-minute mark for the cutoff for?
Yes, we have. And so the public questions are cut off at this time, and we will take those and create questions for the presenters now. So thank you very much for the public questions, and it appears we got a lot. So we'll be going through them. Question 3 for presenter 1. How will the proposer ensure apprentice graduate, let me start over. How will the proposers ensure apprentices graduate in all BOLI approved trades utilized on the project? Your time starts.
I'll go. So first and foremost, the trades are an opportunity to be able to grow economic stability. And so we realize that the biggest issue is making sure that people don't just enter, that people have a platform at which to go on and become journeymen and to go on to become foremen, superintendents, and potentially owners. We've spun off several companies outside of that we actually help people go into business on their own. We've journeyed out countless African Americans, Hispanics, who came in as pre-apprenticeships, and we've taken them all the way through to journeymen. Many of them are currently work for us as foremen and superintendents. Some of them have actually got their college degrees, and they're now operating in the field engineering capacity. So we have a lot of experience with that. I'm gonna let Jennifer talk a little bit more about that.
Hi there. I think we just work hand in hand with the apprentices all through their 2 to 4 years of apprenticeship and just make sure everything is on track for them to get to graduation. And it's just working closely with them in one-on-one meetings and just tracking it really closely every single month. That's it, Andre.
And I'll add some into that, please. You know, all of the companies that form our team employ apprentices with all of our work, and we follow all the guidelines that we're required to by BOLI. But the fundamental thing is we're all dedicated to developing people. We're not working with an apprentice just to get them through their apprenticeship. We're working with an apprentice to create a career for them. And our companies together have gotten really good at making that happen, especially here in Northeast Portland.
Thank you. Again, presenter 2, question 3, how will the proposer ensure apprentices graduate in all BOLI approved trades utilized on the project? Your time starts.
Yeah, so Kent, I'd like you to start with talking about our steady source of employment and our training on the job. And then Dennis, I'd like you to follow up, and Rich.
Great. Well, Ralph, our training on the projects is extensive. When we get the apprentices on the job site, they're immediately mentored up with a buddy on their crews to make sure that they're able to perform work safely and that they're fully informed of the tasks that they need to do, and that they're really taught day to day how to handle tools safely, how to handle the work around the equipment safely, how to get along there safely as well. So there's an extensive amount of that training, and Kiewit being a BOLI certified agent for several different trades, you have unique ability to provide training that's going to help these apprentices to graduate not only through the project, but to journey out and to go beyond that level in that position.
And Rich, would you weigh in?
Yeah, I guess you know, it's been a pleasure over my career to watch a lot of these apprentices journey into foremen and sometimes superintendents, and sometimes end up working for them over the years. And you know, I started as a mechanics helper with 701, which was before the apprenticeship was even invented. So it's a good program. We stand behind it. We probably provide as much, if not more training info to these employees that they can just do online through our Kiewit program in their spare time. You know, it's tool training, everything down to sky's the limit.
And thanks for that, Rich. I only got a couple seconds, but certainly the apprenticeship program is the mentor protege, the true proof of how you do that in construction. The journeyman working with apprentices all the way through. We've done that for 15 years.
You're muted again, Andre.
Andre, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Presenter 2, how will the proposer ensure apprentices graduate in all BOLI approved trades utilized on the project? Your time starts. Presenter 2?
I think we just answered that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Presenter 1. I'm sorry.
Andre, I'll restart the clock.
Yeah, restart the clock.
Andrea, and what's the difference between that and the first question? I mean, the question we just answered.
Oh, isn't presenter 2 should, I'm sorry. Presenter 2, again, how will the proposer ensure there is diversity of subcontractors? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's us. I'm sorry, I was listening for presenter 1. Repeat the question.
Okay, presenter 2, and we can restart the clock. How will the proposer ensure there is diversity of subcontractors?
Thank you. I'll lead into that one. So we're going to use a best value selection process in all our subcontractor procurement, and diversity is going to be a criteria for that selection. So we expect all the subcontractors on board to meet the goals or exceed the goals, and we'll be measuring who we hire and who gets the work based on diversity is going to be a criteria for that. Bill, you got something to add, maybe?
Sure, I think I'll add that we're not presented to, but I guess we'll all roll with this. Maybe it'll happen both ways. Well, I mean, the simple answer is that we work with all COVID certified firms. We try to work with all of the different advocacy groups as well. And I think you just got to look at the experience here in Portland. Our companies, the 3 companies combined, have over 10 large CMGCs in the area. Combined, they equal about $1 billion worth of work. And within them, we've worked with over 100 DBE contractors with a value of about $160 million in DBE contracting. So, I mean, that's the track record of the Hamilton Sunt Raymore team. And all I could say is that, this is standard business for us. We're about building companies to the next level, supporting new companies coming in, trying to fill gaps where there's not current DBEs performing work, and just trying to always maximize the DB contracting on each project.
Thank you. Presenter 2, how will the proposer ensure there is diversity of subcontractors?
Yeah, it comes down to proofs and what we've done on other jobs. Rich, I'd like you to address what we've done on Tillicum and the East Side CSO Tunnel here in Portland. And then Gina, I'd like you to weigh in on what we're planning to do here in the future.
Okay. Tillicum, we had iron worker that started with rebar. We had a bunch of pre-stressed stuff that had to be done. We brought in the training people. We trained them up so that they could perform a task they'd never done before. Eastside CSO, one of our biggest pool of subs was the truckers. And of course, if you've got 30 trucks and you got one truck, it's hard to divvy that up. So we developed the lottery so that all of the work got divvied up representative of the size of the companies and didn't get gobbled up all by the big guys.
Okay, Gina.
Yeah, I think that, there's some basic principles, knowing who's out there, and I think we've got a good idea of who's out there, who's in COBID, understanding their capacities. We know what people are capable of based on Kiewitz relationships and our meetings and one-on-ones with these contractors over the last year. And we'll be looking to actually try to build capacity and to figure out ways to solicit and award work that puts preference on hiring and getting more minority contractors and women contractors on the job. That will be our priority, for the work. And we'll start with the early work packages, to identify those kind of candidates.
Thank you. Next question is for presenter 2. How will proposers ensure there is a substantial representation of diverse workforce on this project? Define substantial in terms of percentages of minorities. Presenter 2, your time starts.
Ralph.
Okay, I'm just getting my points together here. Gina, will you please start us off, and Dennis then weigh in, please?
Well, we've in our conversations with the unions, we've talked to them about the need for that this project's going to have. We know what the numbers are, that the numbers for minority men are 25% and the women percentage is in the high teens, and we'll be working with all of the pre-apprenticeship groups to try to create supply, because the supply, if there's any other large competing projects, everybody will be after the same supply, public projects with gold. So the critical thing to work on during pre-construction is to really begin to build the pipeline and to get more community people by sourcing and doing a lot of targeted outreach in the community into these training programs so that they can get assigned to the job at the end of their training programs.
Yeah, and let me add on that. I think there's opportunities out in the heavy construction trades that some community members, they don't even know what's out there, right? It's kind of about education. It's working with the pre-apprenticeship program. It's a recruiting process that I think Gina is going to be able to help us a lot on. We're going to get women and people of color from this community interested in this project, and with the education that there's working wage jobs, there's careers to be had, and there's an opportunity on one job that can kind of catapult their whole career and their livelihood going forward. It's a great field, and I've been in it for almost 5 decades, and I want to see the rest of this community follow us through.
Thank you. Presenter 1, how will the proposer ensure there is substantial representation of a diverse workforce on this project? Define substantial in terms of percentages of minorities. Your time starts, presenter 1.
Well, Andre, I want to make sure that people heard what we said during our presentation. If you drive the Division Transit project today, a project that has approximately 150,000 hours on that project, you're going to see over 50% people of color in the field, and you're going to see over 70% people of color in the office. And that's just something that you don't see on projects. That's the culmination of 20 years of workforce development here in Portland. Now, that's a street job for PBOT and TriMet. And this is an ODOT job that has substantial structure work on it, which is why you see the teams that you see on this project. So for this Rose Quarter project, I would anticipate in a neighborhood of 300,000 to 400,000 hours, counting the primes and the subs. And I think what I always do on every project is I start in the beginning on analyzing those hours and looking at the scopes of work that match up with those hours so that I can start to put real metrics and parameters on the scopes of work on what I think is achievable for diversity. So certainly on a $500 million, $600 million structure job, we know there's $100 million worth of streetscape work. We know we're going to maximize diversity in the workforce in that location. But Hamilton and Sunt bring diverse workforces as well. I mean, you heard the Sunt stat that 60% of their employees are people of color and women. Hamilton has similar stats as well. So I think that you would see diversity. If you want a measurable metric right out of the gate, I think you're going to see diversity on this project with the workforce in the 30% range.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to go to, we've got question 6, presenter 1. What is the proposer's approach for DBE and workforce participation on early work packages? Presenter 1, your time starts.
Presenter 1, thanks, Andre. So the early work packages that we're contemplating, some of them support design, potholing, engineering. There's a number of DBE professional service companies that are out there right now. One of them, IML, we've already put her on our team. Carrie Eisenberger is already on our team. These are efforts to like involve DBEs early in the design process. When we start looking at opportunities for early work packages, it's always going to be underground utility relocations. Some of them are going to be private, some of them are going to be publics. There's certainly a number of small DBEs, small and medium DBEs right here in Northeast Portland that are capable of performing underground work related to utility relocations. So early work packages are one aspect of the work. Where I see the most participation of DBEs is in the street surface work primarily. And I think even though Raymore's been picked to manage diversity in the street work on this project, I really think there's an opportunity to have 4 separate mini primes managing each quadrant of the overall project. Just like Portland is divided into quadrants, I think that the surface work could be divided into quadrants. And you could see all of those quadrants have elements of early work, all performed potentially by 4 different mini primes. So those are just some of our initial thoughts. We think there's definitely needs to be early work related to the drilling and the support for the drilling, for walls, eventually for the freeway widening.
Thank you.
Those are our thoughts.
Thank you. Presenter 2, what is the proposer's approach for DBE and workforce participation on early work packages? Your time starts.
Ken Bowden, I'd like you to address it, and then Jim with Stacy and Whitbeck, I'd like you to add on based on your experience and your contribution.
I think, thanks, Ralph. These early work packages are going to really be a great opportunity for our DVE subcontractors to get started either growing or start on a steady diet of work that may last throughout the project. And so if you want to really build a healthy contractor, certainly a great way to do that is through these early works packages. And like Bill was saying, this is a great opportunity for the MCMGC program to take root for the contractor and to start to see those MCMGC contractors start to thrive and develop their businesses, develop their workforces so that they can really become successful. And as far as workforce goes, in similar fashion, we would love to get a lot of the local apprentices out there and really start them in learning their trade so that they can start to master that and journey out of their programs. And we'd love for them to journey out on our crews, on our project. So I think that's some things for subs and for the workforce. There'll be a lot of opportunities there early on.
Yep. Yeah, with our 20 years of experience in Portland, we understand the capacity in the community, and we understand we've been working with a lot of the DB contractors, and it starts with a plan. We develop a plan, and we divide the plan up into different types of work. And I tell you early on, the potholing, the underground utility work, the survey, just to mention some of them, but it starts with the plan, divide it up, and making sure that we're spreading the work to the right people.
Thank you. Last question of the COAC questions. Presenter 2, how will the proposer ensure the entire community, not just COAC members, are informed on DBE participation and workforce diversity on the project? Your time starts.
Why don't you start off with the response here, and Kent, I'd like you to follow up.
Well, I think that we will have a robust outreach, working with ODOT, we'll have a robust outreach program that where we're continuously interfacing with the community organizations. I have relationships with many of those organizations, and so it's about communication and making people aware of where the opportunities are, and then how we're responding to those opportunities, how we're integrating DBEs and workforce into the work as it evolves.
Yeah, thanks, Gina. I'd add to that, really, we probably can't underestimate or overestimate the importance of transparency and communication with the community to fulfill the promises that have been made. And I think ODOT is truly looking to do business differently. And as part of ODOT's project team, that will be our goal as well, to support that effort and to really provide the transparency and the communication that the public can rely on those promises and can rely on accountability and transparency as we work our way through the years and meet the commitments that have been made.
Dennis, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would say the other thing we're going to do on this job is the flow down of the contract is another good tool, where all of our subcontractors will have similar workforce and DBE subcontractor goals, the same ones that Kiewit has. So it really is a waterfall where Kiewit passes it down to our first tier subs and onto theirs. So you gather in more DBEs and more diverse workforce at every level you go down to the sub tier. So that's another way we can achieve a goal throughout all the contractors.
Thank you. Presenter 1, how will the proposer ensure the entire community, not just the COAC members, are informed on DBE participation and workforce diversity on the project? Your time starts.
How do you say COAC members?
COAC members, yes.
Okay. So bottom line is that being in the community, there's a lot of people that are out there that are not very familiar with contracting in terms of public works. We have a lot of private contractors out there and different people. We work hard to make sure they know about the opportunities by outreach through a lot of the pre-apprenticeship programs, a lot of people, and through NAMAC and PGG and Latino Bill, because there's a lot of people that don't that have not been familiar with all the opportunities on commercial projects. So that's one way that we make sure we help them get certified. We get them in, we help them get certified, and then we put them to work right away. Bill?
Yeah, Jeff, I would just add to it is that, we have a lot of techniques that we use regularly on projects, including things like holding open houses at incremental steps to bring people in so that they can hear about the opportunities that are out there. We usually try to spread those open houses around, or call them mixers sometimes, where we can invite people in after hours to learn about the project, to report out on the project. And then, as Jeff stated, I mean, we're part of the community. I mean, our office is on Brazil and Martin Luther King. We interact regularly with a lot of the DVEs that are in this neighborhood, so that we communicate regularly with them too. Everybody knows what we're doing down here. So in addition to that, I just think that if there's a value in seeing some kind of public information, public relations effort that we think would be important to broadcast the results.
Thank you. That concludes the COAC questions. We will now move to the public questions that are asked. We'll follow the same format. We'll start with proposer 1 and ask a question. You'll have 2 minutes. And then proposer 2 will ask the same question. You'll have 2 minutes to go provide your response. So proposer 1, public question 1, how will the proposer ensure that Black-owned firms as well as other firms of color participate on the project? Your time starts.
Well, being in the minority community, Raymore has a history of reaching out to companies. As you see on the Deferred Shelters project that we were the prime on, 84% of the work done on that project was done by firms of color, certified firms. We're committed to the African American community is represented in our management, is represented in our workforce, is represented in all our subcontracting that we put out. We on the Division Transit project, we have 2 mini CMGCs, both going now. And we also make sure that all the contractors that we bring in, that they also subcontract with other minority firms. Bill, you got anything to add?
Well, Jeff, I think that says it all. If I was going to add anything, I would say that, there's a reason that we've historically focused on efforts on contracting with African American firms, but we've never excluded other ethnicities. In fact, we've always tried to make our contracting practices, just like our workforce, reflect the community that we're working within. And I don't see that changing.
Are you complete?
That's all we have.
Okay. Proposer 2, how will the proposer ensure that Black-owned firms as well as other firms of color participate on the project? Your time starts.
Gene, I'd like you to address the 18 months of outreach we spent here coming up to this point. And then Dennis, talk about how we set goals by our work discipline. And so we're disciplined on how we make sure we meet the goals.
So as Ralph mentioned, we spent 18 months. We talked to over 25 DBEs, all African American and Hispanic DBEs, a few Native American DBEs. We were looking for people that we, doing outreach and asking people if they wanted to be involved in this project. So we know who's out there. I know a lot of the African American DBEs personally. I'm also from the community and have lived here for 50 years. So I know a lot of the folks who've developed their businesses in the last 20 years. So we will will essentially that'll be a priority for us to involve African American contractors in our outreach and in basically our contracting.
Yeah, I mean, like Ralph said, we break down every job by types of work or scopes of work, and there's qualified DBE minority-owned firms in every work scope. So we look at electrical work, concrete work, steel erection work, earthworks, trucking. We know there's qualified minority-owned firms in every one of those scopes, and we're going to try to put a contractor of color into each one of those work scopes in a competitive bidding way, but by a way we know there's qualified people and capable people, and we want to utilize firms from all races and ethnicities.
Andre, you're muted.
Okay, yep, I'm here. Okay, proposer 2, public question 2. What quantitative DBE contracting sustainable indicators would you implement to assess and ensure that the Indigenous people and Native Americans are fully included to create a fair, equitable opportunities in the construction and professional services? Your time starts.
Terry, this is one we really need your input on.
Great, thanks, Ralph. Well, I don't know if I can directly answer the question, but Akana is a Native American-owned firm, and we have been working with Kiewit for quite a number of years. We were working with them on the Telecom Crossing. And so what we found is that Kiewit is really sticks in delivering their promises. They're a high-performance organization. By working with them, they've improved our organization and helped us to grow. They're a true teaming partner. After the project has ended, they came back to us 18 months ago and said, hey, are you guys interested in being involved on the I-5 Rose Quarter project with us? And it was an easy decision for us to team with them exclusively because they're such a great teaming partner. So they are doing their outreach, and they are reaching out to Indigenous firms, Native American-owned firms, and all spectrum of the rainbow to make sure that DBEs are included on this project. I'll pass it back to you, Ralph.
Yeah, Gina, you want to address some of the outreach we've done with the Native American community?
Well, we have had discussions with the Native American Chamber. We have met with probably 3 or 4 of the Native American contractors, civil contractors, and solicited their interest in working with us. So we will continue to do that. Our approach is going to be to try to get everybody who's in co-bid, because there aren't that many minority contractors that are capable of doing heavy civil work in the co-bid system, is to help get more people in there who are doing street work now, and to use everybody who's there to the degree that we can find a scope of work that fits with their capabilities.
Okay. Again, proposer 1, public question 2. What quantitative DBE contracting sustainable indicators would you implement to assess and ensure that the Indigenous peoples and Native Americans are fully included to create a fair and equitable opportunities in the construction and professional services? Your time.
First, I'd like to say that we've been getting stopped right at 2 minutes, and you've let the other companies go on. So I'd appreciate the same courtesy. Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I'm trying to wrap my head around the term quantitative metrics, sustainable indicators. Not quite sure what a sustainable indicator is, but I try to hit what I think the issue is. I think when we talk about the involvement of Native American firms here in Portland, there are a couple, and we do see representation in the workforce as well. But when you look at the broader state of Oregon or the home state of Sun in Phoenix, you're looking at 2 companies that have vast experience employing techniques to satisfy terror requirements. Both Sunt and Hamilton have employed hundreds of Native American workers in their workforce. But here in Portland, particularly this corridor, there are very few Native Americans. But to the point, I think the key term that we heard in the question is indigenous peoples. And of late, like the last year, I would say that I've heard that distinction a couple times now. And I believe that there are a couple of firms that consider themselves to be indigenous peoples versus strictly Native American. And I think that there's a distinction there that we need to be sensitive to and figure out. I also heard the term professional services. So I'm kind of curious if there's a capacity building thing here that might be in front of us. But as far as quantitative metrics, sustainable indicators, I mean, we will keep track of things.
Thank you. And there was a couple extra seconds there, Jeff. Public question 3 for proposer 1. Explain the diversity manager's authority in decision-making authority for diversity, inclusion, wealth development for the project team. Your time starts. Proposer 1.
Sure, I'll speak to that initially. You know, this is a very important position, and Bill and Jennifer are going to have a high level of authority to ensure that we maximize all the opportunities. And it's our culture anyway. So, you know, we're just not relying on them to make things happen. We all have a great history of that, but they'll have a high level authority. We've got Jeff is on our executive team giving us advice on how we're working. And so with that, do you folks have anything else?
Yeah, the only reason I agreed to partner with the Hamilton Sun team is that I would be on the executive committee and my voice would absolutely be heard. Not in the beginning, but in the end throughout the entire project. Bill Bruce is a project manager. He's built some of the largest projects in the CMGC delivery method in Portland. He knows the work, he knows the community. Nobody has done diversity better. We're on this team because we will influence the outcome. We will ensure that minority firms get an opportunity to really participate at a meaningful level, from low levels all the way up to large levels of any CMGC opportunity. We will ensure that the workforce is reflective of the community. African Americans who have historically been locked out will get opportunities, along with Hispanics, indigenous people, and anybody else that wants to participate from communities of color. Thank you.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we're done.
Okay. Proposer 2, same question, public question. Explain the diversity manager's authority in decision-making authority for diversity, inclusion, and wealth development for the project team. Your time starts.
Yes. As the first priority, Dennis and Gina, you know that you have a free hand here. Dennis, would you start and then Gina follow up?
Yeah, my experience is on some other large transportation projects, and I'm happy to say at Kiewit, I have a voice. I have a strong voice. We're making DBE and minority subcontracting goals because the project directors are listening to suggestions, and they know on their own the value of making these goals and providing opportunities for the underrepresented populations. I feel good that my suggestions, that you're going to judge everybody on the value they add, and part of that is pricing, and part of that is development in the community, and it's just the right way to do business and the way we look at things. They listen to me, and Gina, maybe you could add your perspective from being from the community.
Yeah, well, I'm an outside contractor. I'm not a Kiewit staff person, but I can tell you I've been working with Kiewit for about 15 months now. And, you know, anybody who knows me knows that I'm going to make my voice known. And, you know, I wouldn't be working with a contractor. This isn't a job to me. This is an opportunity to bring back, you know, economic opportunity to this community, to my community, to the African American community, and to other communities of color, to really use the kind of work that I've done for 40 years, to really use this large public project to leverage economic benefits for those of us who've been locked out of the opportunity time and time again. So my goal will be to advocate, you know, loud and clear for the things. And so far, Kiewit has been very responsive to my.
Yes, thank you. Proposer 2, if the plan is to seek out and use new firms, how will you ensure that there is outreach and use of existing firms? Your time starts.
Yeah, Dennis, I'd like you to start. And Kent, I would like you to weigh in as well.
We've already been meeting with minority and DBE firms for, you know, 12, 14, 16 months. And we found them through the advocacy groups and through the co-bid and who Gina knows in the community. So sure, we're going to lean on people we know from Killicum Crossing, from Big Pipe, from the tram, and then we're going to grow on it. We're going to need everybody. I think Gina pointed that out. We've got 700 co-bid DBEs, and only, you know, less than half of them are local or from the minority community, and we're going to need everybody. So I think there's going to be enough work for the companies we know, the existing companies, plus we're going to need new ones. Can you add on that? You know?
Yeah, Dennis, I'd agree with that. And I'd say, again, with 18 to 22% participation from DB firms, there is going to be an abundance of opportunities, and there's going to be an abundance of opportunities for new firms and abundance of opportunities for existing firms. And there's going to be abundance of opportunities for the existing firms to branch out into new types of work. In fact, that's one of ODOT's goals really is to grow the DBE firms so that they can do multiple types of ODOT work, as well as bringing in firms who haven't done ODOT work before. We want to bring those firms in as well to participate on our team.
There'll be more work than the existing firms can take on. So that's why we're also looking to create some wealth there with new firms.
Thank you. Proposer 1, if the plan is to seek out and use new firms, how do you ensure that there is outreach and use of existing firms? Your time starts.
So again, this is a large project over 4 years. You know, we'll be running $150 million a year. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for both new and existing firms. So so there'll be plenty of work to go around. Bill, why don't you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, Matt. Well, it's interesting, first of all, because there's been so much discussion about mini primes that small starts and capacity building have been left out of the conversation so far. I always think of it as small, medium, and large. We have a certain number of firms that we want to spend time on that are between the $0 and $500,000 a year in business. We have a medium-sized group that's between $500,000 and $5 million, and then we have the large group that's $5 million and up, the ones that we consider mini primes. And in my experience, we're going to put the same amount of energy into each one of those categories, because each one of those categories is critical to sustaining this effort and to ultimately seeing new firms come in and large firms graduate out. And that's been a philosophy of ours for a long time. And I think you could see it on the Selwood Bridge. You could see it on the current Division Transit project. And I want to also respond to another comment that I heard that this is this huge amount of work that is going to max us out. Well, it's not. I mean, the DBEs in Portland have handled $150 million worth of work before. Just in 2011, through 2015, we went through this, and everybody got work, and everybody grew. Thank you.
Thank you. Proposer one, question, another question from the public. How will you ensure transparency in the process of outreach and utilization of existing minority and women firms who may not have ties or relationship to trade organizations? Your time starts.
So there are several trade organizations. I call them advocacy groups primarily, and they serve a fundamental purpose. All of them do. And everything really works well when they're together and when they're working together. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. But we're about COVID certified firms. That's really what this is about. It's not about what advocacy group or what affiliation you have. It's about COVID certified firms. It's about small, medium, and large, and it's about building diversity into the construction industry, in businesses, and in workforce. Thank you.
I'd like to add to that, Bill. It's also about a lot of the minority firms that have not gone through the COVID certification. With somebody that started like Raymore with a truck and a dream to be able to grow in and build a company and build a better life for himself and to employ people of color and to help build a better community. So we want to find those people. We want to help them get started. You know, we have a couple people now we're working with. That's very, very important because that's how you truly foster community benefit. By getting companies, people that are from the community, helping them get started in business, helping them be successful in business so that they can employ people from their community, right, with living wage jobs, right, with living wage careers, so they can buy homes and they don't need low income housing because they can afford market housing because they have living wage jobs. That's what this is really all about.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yep,
Thank
you.
And I think this is going to be the last question of the night. How will the...
We need to address the same question, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Could you read the question again?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. If the plan is to seek out new firms, how will you ensure that there is outreach and use of existing firms?
No, I don't think that was the word.
No, I'm sorry. How will you ensure transparency in the process of outreach and utilization of existing minority and women firms who may not have had ties or relationships with trade organizations?
Thanks, Andre. Gina, I'd like you to start off and Dennis follow up.
Yeah, we're gonna, I think that a couple of ideas have already been spoken to, and we're all on the same page. If you're traveling in this territory, if you're doing this work, it's not rocket science what you have to do to grow capacity. There's so many firms that are already certified, and we're going to be trying to grow those firms to the next level. And then there are firms that aren't DBE certified, which you need to be working on this project. And there are a number of firms, like in the City of Portland Prime Development Contractor Program, which Jeff mentioned, that are doing scopes of work that would align with pieces of work that will get done on this project that are MBEs and WBEs. And we're going to be looking to see who of those people want to grow and transition and work on this project. So, and then there's also the notion that many firms have the ability to, and the skill sets on their crews to do additional work that they're not NAS certified. So we want to be looking at that to make sure we can expand the codes. There are codes that they actually have skill sets and experience doing work in. So it's building capacity at, in a number of different ways.
And Dennis, address without ties to trade organizations. That was the question.
So yeah, I think we continue to lean on the advocacy groups, and we should help everybody that qualifies to be a DBE in COVID. Let's help them get certified. I think it exposes you to more contractors, to us on this job and other projects. It's a way to get identified and able to have those companies grow as more people know about them.
Thank you. Last question, proposer 2. How will the proposers ensure that the public is engaged through each milestone of the project? Also, with city support pulled from the project, how do you intend to make sure the city's interests are considered in the project? Your time starts, proposer 2.
Kent, I'd like you to start off with this one.
Sure. And I'd love to talk about how the public will be engaged in the project as a CMGC contractor's role on the project team. Our role will be really to fulfill the promises that the project team and the communications that the project team is going to have with the public. And the ODOT has an owner's representative really that's going to head up the public relations and the interface with the public. And our role as a contractor on the project team is going to be to support that and make sure that the promises made to the public are followed through on, and that we're meeting all the obligations that we have there. You know, the city, we've all read the news on the city having some pause on support for the project, and certainly we're very concerned about that. We bring a very innovative, dynamic group that can bring lots of ideas to our client ODOT. And perhaps we have some ideas in there that may be helpful to help resolve some of the difficulties and challenges that they're going through right now on the project.
Excellent. Yes, Gina, Gina or Dennis, you can finish up or close on this one?
Dennis, you can go ahead.
No, I like Kent's approach, right? It's about collaboration, right? So, and the meetings with the community and the stakeholders, that's an ongoing thing that's been going on. It needs to continue to go on. And like Kent said, we want to follow the lead of ODOT, and we'll support them and help spread the message and get everybody on board for the good of the community as a whole. And I think that's a way to do that is be open and transparent and talk to all the stakeholders.
Thank you. Last question, proposer 1. How will the proposers ensure that the public is engaged through each milestone of the project? Also, with city support pulled from the project, how do you intend to make sure the city's interests are considered in the project? Your time starts.
Thank you. Thank you. With all that's going on, we really do need to get everybody to sit down and get together, get everybody collaborating on what this thing's really going to be. And so that's really the first step that we all need to accomplish. I think Jeff can speak more to that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work that has to continue to go on. We, even in the community itself, the African American community is somewhat divided on the direction this project should go. So it is going to take us all sitting down at the table and really talking about what's important and figure out how we can work in such a way that everybody goals and what they're trying to accomplish, we can meet those goals. This is a huge project. You're talking about a lot of economics for the community. A lot of it's been slated to go to our firms and to our community. So I think it's important that we all sit down. Bill?
Yeah, the other part of the question was about ensure public engagement through the project. So we saw that early on as an opportunity. We know on most projects of this magnitude that the owner is going to most likely control the public information program, but we made steps already to bring in a company from out of town called Vector, company that has done PR for over 300 large projects nationally, and who has volunteered to come in and work with a small startup here in Portland to build a local PI/PR firm. So we have some great ideas on how to build capacity in this area where there currently isn't any, to create a really responsive, robust public information and engagement program. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the question portion. I'll turn it back to, I believe it's Jody.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you everyone that's attended today. I think that we're at closing remarks. So I just want to again thank our contractors and our community for participating in this event, and Andre for moderating for us. And I'll turn this over to April. You're still with us?
I'm here.
Okay. Hi. Do you guys have any closing remarks?
I don't. I think the questions that were asked today were great, and keep it up. Keep it up, community, with great questions, and ensuring that we move forward in a way that makes the community proud, and developing a project and ensuring that we continue that engagement. So thank you. Thanks everybody for joining, for participating. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, April. All right. Well, I think that concludes our event today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.